Once again, hello and welcome to all of you. Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Teresa Blumenstein, and I am the coordinator for the Justice Coalition of Religious, or JCoR, which is a collaboration of non-governmental organizations who represent the mission and ministries of Catholic sisters, brothers, priests, as well as their partners in various fora of the United Nations, as well as many other political spaces at the national or local level. And we have convened this meeting today in the context of one of the major annual conferences of the United Nations, which is the high-level political forum on sustainable development. And this is essentially the annual forum for review of progress on our effort to achieve the UN agenda known as the Sustainable Development Goals. And so we have been gathering each day thus far this week during the forum to have a conversation that is focused on one of the Sustainable Development Goals that has been selected as a theme or a priority for this year's forum. And so we continue our conversation today by looking at goal number 11, which is sustainable, inclusive, and safe cities. And so this phrase, sustainable and inclusive cities, includes many aspects of life in a city or community. It includes housing, it includes transportation, it includes waste management. It also includes inclusive access for all members of the community to green spaces, parks, open space for recreation. It includes access to participation in cultural life and contribution to cultural life. And so in today's conversation, we will hear messages from several different corners of the world, different projects and different contributions that are being made by religious congregations and their partners in relation to this goal, number 11. And so we will go first to a video message from Padre Carlos Morena in Argentina, who will speak to us about a project of the Salesians of Don Bosco, which they call Christ Homes. And these are a large network of homes that are made available to young people in particular who are in need of housing and who are struggling with drug addiction or substance abuse. And so we will now hear from Padre Carlos.
The Christ Home is an experience for boys and girls that are living in the streets and that are abusing drugs. And in those Christ Homes that were founded in 2008, when Pope Francis was the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, in Barraca, which is a part of the city of Buenos Aires, we started cleaning the feet of these people who are the poorest among the poor. And it's a way of embodying Christ. And at the moment, we have 190 homes in the whole Republic of Argentina. Some of them work as a day center from 7 o'clock in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. Others are residential homes. And we have worked with 20,000 people up to now, with those people that are having a drug addiction problem and that are homeless. And I would like to remind you that Argentina at the moment is living a very strong poverty problem. 40% of the population is under the poverty threshold. And this is easy to see in the streets. And it's going across the whole social scope. I mean, drug addiction as a means to face this poverty problem is affecting all the different society layers, and it's very important. I am in a very small city that is 90 kilometers away from Buenos Aires. And here our home started in 2016. And there we were doing some prevention work, because solutions are not only concerned with drug addiction, but also with prevention. And so we in this Christ home, we were a kind of a prevention school, and we were trying to approach the topic of what to do if you're offered drugs, etc. Then we have we have 4 Christ homes that are residential. One is 20 kilometers away from Zárate, and another one 30 kilometers away from Zárate. The main principle is to welcome life as it comes. So we don't run any diagnostics, or we don't set some certain conditions. We welcome life as it comes. And it is very good because drug addiction is a lifelong illness that requires an environment so that the people can express their suffering, because it's a tremendous suffering, and suffering is something that nobody likes. But in that, drug addiction has many reasons. You might have had problems of being abandoned by your family, or many social problems conjoined with the high offer that is in the streets. And welcoming life as it is has a very beautiful aim, because life is God. So we are welcoming God as he shows. And sometimes he comes broken up, upside down, empty, because these young people that arrive at our Christ homes usually come with empty pockets, and they only have what they have on them. And in winter, they just have a jumper and that's it. And we try to welcome them with a warm hug, trying to contain this life in the hug, and showing them through this hug that your life is important, that your life matters. Because when they live in the slums or in the street, homeless, they feel like they are mutants, they are invisible, they are a piece of the city furniture. And at the moment, we have 5,768 slums in Argentina, without any public transportation, without any open spaces, a scarcity of water and electricity, where living conditions are very precarious. There is cold, that there are people that are living in cardboard homes or in tin homes. And well, you know this situation, but the cold is terrible there, and this situation shouldn't be like that. What we are trying to do in Zárate, in the Christ homes, one of our features is to welcome life as it is, in serving the other. Serving others is important, so we cook for them because they come hungry. There is hunger there. And so we are at the moment cooking 1,000 meals a day. And this gesture of cooking for the boys, they feel important. They feel welcomed. They know where they are because these homes are well known, and they feel welcome. They get to regenerate themselves inside. So we welcome life as it comes, and then we continue living in the home. So our treatment is living together day by day. Every day's life can be healing. So our home has open doors. Everybody can come in and out. We have minors mainly, which is problematic before justice, because it's not legal. We are still looking for an instrument, a legal instrument to protect these minors, because we are not the legal guardians, and it's complicated before the law. Many of them have been abandoned, or they have left their homes because their family were also abusing drugs. And in the city of God, as you said, the one that we imagined right now, we wished it would be different. In our homes, boys and girls work. They have a group therapy. They have a personal individual therapy if they wish to. And they open the doors every morning by reading the gospel. Although we don't try to convince anybody, we are not on a proselytism mission, but we try to open them to something bigger than themselves, which is very important for them to keep alive, to sustain themselves. And of course, it is a long way. It's a life-lasting work. They need to be aware of their fragility, same as we are. And we the process we follow in the Christ homes is that we strengthen boys and girls. We try to make them resilient to endure the society in which they are living, because that's the conditions they need to live in. And so our boys and girls are going through not stages but homes. There is a welcoming home where they try to, I mean, when they come to us, their first need is to sleep and to eat. Then the second stage is not a stage, it's a second home. They have the 12 steps therapy. They receive these questions to get an insight in them and to find the answers to themselves, so that they can decide on their life and that they can express what is hurting them and what is breaking them. It's a beautiful process. And we talk about the large family of the Christ homes, which is 190 homes, because sometimes these young people need to go out of the space where they are and have access to different resources. And sometimes there are homes that offer different resources, but sometimes they need to go to another one to have access to those resources. So every single boy or girl, after a certain time, they always have health problems, of course, because many of them have been mistreated, they had been battered or injured, or have been hurt with a knife. And they also have education problems because they quit school usually. And so we try to cover those needs so that after a certain time they can start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It is very difficult. very difficult. First of all, we need to manage money as well, because obviously the type of job they can have access to is not a highly paid job, which means that if they need to be autonomous, it's very difficult. So the least we expect is that they can find a job that allows them to pay for a small room with a bathroom, but it's not easy. And then we try to help them to restore their family links, if possible. It is a beautiful experience. And I believe that this option of for religious life in the different phases that has been shown throughout the world, especially that phase of being with the poor and engaging in JPIC, is very well expressed in our ministry. Thank you.
We send, though he's not with us live, we send our thanks and gratitude to Padre Carlos for sharing that amazing effort that is being put forth by the Salesians in Argentina to respond to the particular needs for support, so that the population of youth who are struggling with drug addiction and substance abuse do have a place that is inclusive of them, that builds community for them, and not only housing, but community, as he described, in the mutual way in which life is shared in the Christ homes, the way that they cook for one another. These are beautiful examples of inclusion that creates for a kind of social sustainability, if we can think of it that way. And we see, of course, special need for these kinds of communities in urban environments. So we will go next to see a video that encapsulates another ministry related to housing, which was a ministry founded by Sister Jean Quinn, who is a daughter of wisdom and who is now also the UN representative for the organization Unanima International, which represents many congregations of women religious at the United Nations. And we will see in this video, really video celebration, her work in founding an organization called Sophia Housing, which provides supportive housing for a large number of people across the nation of Ireland, which is her home nation as well. And this is quite an immense project. Sophia owns or manages over 360 homes across Ireland. They support over 1,000 people per year in those homes, which includes about 240 families and 500 children. And of all the adults who are supported in Sophia's housing, there are about a third who have some kind of need for mental health support. And additionally, a third are currently or have in the past been battling some kind of addiction. But despite the challenges that are presented in this kind of work, Sophia is able to make the remarkable claim that just 1% of those who are supported in their housing return to homelessness during the course of the year, which is an extremely low number for anyone who has worked in any kind of housing issues or housing services, to be able to create that kind of stability for 99% of the people you're serving is a huge accomplishment. So now we will get a visual to better see and understand this amazing ministry of the Daughters of Wisdom and several other congregations who have contributed or participated in some way to the various housing sites that are included in the Sophia Housing Network.
My name is Jean Quinn, a Daughter of Wisdom and founder of Sophia Housing. I initiated Sophia Housing in 1997 when a group of laypersons and religious women came together to realise a dream. The dream was about people on the margins having a better way of life, a life of greater equality, and we wanted to make a difference. As an organisation, we had the potential to use our diversity and our resources, our staff members, friends of Sophia, all those whose lives we touched, as a power source to address systems of injustice in our country. The vision of Sophia was to have projects that will enable people to make a positive difference in their lives. Projects that were secure, projects that are innovative in providing growth for vulnerable women, men and children. The communities of Sophia right across our country, with housing, with support, gives hope to all our people. It opens the door to a different future for those who've had so many difficulties in the past. In partnership and in collaboration with the Religious of Ireland, with the Friends of Sophia, with the local authorities, we have been inspired and achieved much. Let us continue in Sophia's name to bring about innovative projects and support services for those out of home.
I'll light the fire.
My name's Louisa Carr and I'm the National Service Manager for Sophia. We don't give up on people. We give people, when they make mistakes, we work really hard with them to try and make sure that they can change their circumstances or change their behaviours. I'd like to think they would describe it as a safe place to be, that they can build both within their families and their own personal development.
All night long, on me.
My name is Leanne and I'm the project manager for Cork Street project. Sophia is different. I genuinely feel that. I think that it's not like the bigger organisations. It's genuinely the people that are on the ground working with the tenants have genuinely care for them and care about what happens.
My name is Keith Dawson. I'm the senior project worker in Camberley House in Georgetown, and I work with homeless families in emergency accommodation. And the feedback that we get from families and the reaction that we see on their faces is fantastic. The families that come to Camberley House have had a stint in the likes of the hotels and the B&Bs. We believe, that everyone has the ability to regain control of their life.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house.
My name's Gráinne Hilton. I'm a Daughter of Wisdom. I'm on the board of Sophia Housing. Sophia means a lot to me. It's really part of my life. They come the way they are from homelessness, which is a very disruptive, painful place. They need a lot of nurturing and to take people at their pace, and that's how we work with people at their pace, and they lead it with our encouragement, walking by their side.
Oisin Dunn, Sophia Shaw McDermott Street. We cater for couples solely. A lot of them would have complex needs, high levels of ill health, and greater levels of substance use, educational disadvantage than the majority of the population.
Living in Sophia Housing, living here 2.5 years now. I was homeless for 11 years before I got this place. When I came in here, I was bad on drugs, I'm working my way up to getting takeaways now and everything. I'm off everything, and they've helped me a lot through it.
Today.
Tony O'Riordan, Chief Executive Officer at Sophia. For me, Sophia occupies a unique place in the response to homelessness in Ireland. There's a wisdom in Sophia's response to homelessness because it first of all recognises the trauma and the hurt that people have experienced prior to coming into homelessness and also by being homeless. Our challenge in the years ahead is to help people to continue to recover from homelessness by providing compassion, warmth, and a professional caring response that travels with people on their journey out of homelessness.
I have personally walked in places where homeless people walk. I have listened to their stories, and their stories coax me to be confident. They encourage me to sing new melodies from the frightened spaces within. They invite me to sit with them throughout the night, beggar to beggar, learning to celebrate the touch, gentle in its respectfulness, seeking not to dominate but to share. Here Sophia meets each of us as we unravel the stories of our lives. Sophia helping us to pass the night, whatever the night is for us. Dreaming us to another place, a place perhaps where we will dance again in the arms of a new dawn.
Some of the beautiful images there coming from the Sophia Housing Initiative in Ireland. And there were clearly several different testimonials from members of the leadership, from people who have been residents in Sophia's houses, to say that this is an environment for them that is supportive, where people do not give up on them, where people are trusted to have the capacity to begin again, to restore their lives after trauma and challenges, to move through the traumas that not only lead to homelessness in many cases, but also the experience, the traumatic experience of homelessness. And it requires a community to recover from those kinds of traumas. And so that's what people find in Sophia Housing, and those 365 homes that are across Ireland, and especially in those urban areas, which brings us back to our theme for today of sustainable and inclusive cities. And so now we will go to our third message, which comes to us from Anna DeLuco, who is a member of the Sisters for Christian Community. And she is originally from the Basque region of Spain, but she is now residing in the city of New York in the United States, where she has been one of the founders and ongoing, shall I say, leaders of an organization that's almost more a community than an organization, called Sure We Can, which is concerned on its surface with providing essentially a waste management service, a recycling service that facilitates responsible collection and disposal and management of recyclable materials in the city, but is also something of a community in that you may have seen in whatever part of the world you reside, you'll find that there's always something of a community that arises around salvaging materials that others have discarded as waste, and that can either provide some kind of income for the person who is salvaging, or those materials are directly reused by them for their own life and basic needs. And so in Sure We Can, you will hear from Anna that there's been kind of a community of those who are involved in this effort of salvaging, who may not be known well, even though we have seen them around our communities. We may not know them well. And as you will learn from Anna, she does. She knows them very well, and has created a community for them. So we will now go to hear from Ana de Luco.
Buenos días. Voy a usar
Good morning. I'm going to speak in Spanish. So because we are using this language, and I'm speaking from New York. Thank you for this invitation to share the objective 10, reducing inequalities between 12 and 13. And I will start from 11, sustainable communities that embraces everything. The challenge of Sure We Can that made me come today here, it was born as a response of a need to have exchanging what was collected in the streets so that they have a gain. And it was a result of my sharing with homeless people. When we had a decent place, we managed to have a place to have a urban farm and recycling disposal. But today, after 13 years, the vast majority is living on a stable way, have rented an apartment or a room, and have enough resources to live with dignity. So that project I have left, I am devoted full-time. Our home project that was born as a response to this minority that still remains, that despite working in recycling, they are still in the street, rejected because they are alcoholic. In our home, they are respecting the common home, earth, and at the same time, we believe that each inhabitant of it has a right, has a right to a place that feels home with the little resources that we share. A month ago, after looking for it, we managed to have a small farm where we can grow vegetables to have some food, and we want to start building some huts, tiny homes, 6 or 8 square meters with reused materials, so that they have privacy and protection, but also have common places, sharing food, the dining hall, their bathroom with solar energy, collecting rainwater, also a bathroom that provides gas to cook. The very little that each one of us achieves is shared, and have preference those who have been in hospital with severe problems of health caused by alcohol, and with determination of trying to get over those problems. But if they go back to street, they will not be able to recover. That's why we work with the hospital team in order to follow them up. And we also are connected with families, being able to recover those family bonds due to alcoholism. I like the question, what I have learned. Like, it's not normal to be done this. I've learned that equality and sustainability are very linked and are achieved by practicing them. Because we are different, but we are equal in our capacity to contribute to our unique richness that we all carry. Because living sustainably is normal, it's natural, it's the civilized way. While expending too much destruction and exploitation of human and of natural resources, it's a barbarian way of life, uncivilized, certainly not typical of our 21st century. I have learned to give value of the lifestyle that one day I discovered and that many of them have chosen, that facilitates of giving myself completely to these communities and to these SDGs. Not having couple or my own family is allowing me of being friend, companion, sister of anyone which I met in my way, fostering mutual respect among different races and peoples as a human family. Not having nothing of my own is facilitating me sharing everything, bed, food, because everything is ours, or it's for those who are most in need. Living connected, moved by this great wisdom, which called love, makes me be risky, taking risks, going further than plans, distinguishing and defending what is good, just, human, in face of legal, of what is allowed, and really, I leave it as such, welcoming so much wisdom by the others, believing that everything is possible when you walk, sharing, supporting one another. Which help I would ask the governments, I would ask openness to change laws when these are not fostering common good or they are not answering the needs of communities. One example, New York has a great problem of homelessness. And they are not allowing us, giving a ground to develop these projects of sure we can or our home. Technically, we are not allowed to develop these small houses due to laws which are obsolete, outdated. Those who see, like me, the need of these changes, we have the responsibility to push for them. What is good and necessary is also legal, allowed, and even fostered. And they say homelessness is today a pandemic that requires more than vaccination because of its big complexity, human complexity. That's why we need space and time to share spaces, concrete experiences, in order to test what works and what doesn't. Listening with patience and respect and empathy to those who are living these realities, and especially developing strategies, preventive strategies. I believe that all of us have to work to build a urban culture, human. Thank you very much for the invitation.
And now we have some time for further comment and conversation among all who are gathered here today. So I would like to open the floor to anyone who wishes to respond with a comment, or perhaps who might like to share an experience of your own from wherever you are in the world. Again, this could relate to any aspect of goal number 11, which includes things that we heard already, matters of housing that is supportive and inclusive, matters of waste management, like we heard just now from Anna, but also includes things like public transportation, public safety, the ability of all people to move about freely in cities or their home communities without fear of violence against them. Matters of green spaces being available to everyone and cultural opportunities and life being available to everyone. These are all included in goal number 11. So if there's anyone who would like to add to this conversation, you can indicate your desire to speak by turning on your camera and waving, or if you wish, you can use the reaction button to raise your digital hand. And the reaction button appears at the bottom of your screen. Perhaps it may have a picture of a smiling face. And if you click on that, you will see the option to raise hand. Is there anyone that would like to respond or contribute further to the conversation?
Yo podría comentar algo, Teresa.
Please, por favor,
Teresa, I would like to mention something. I would like to say how sorry I am because I have some problems with my camera. I would like to talk about the project called 13 Casas, which is 13 houses, and it is a global project of the Vincentian family. The Vincentian family is composed by around 8 million people that are formally linked to the charism. And the leaders of the Vincentian family proposed a campaign called 13 Houses, 13 Casas, recalling St. Vincent of Paul's experience in his early years when he started preaching in the missions and when he started creating the charism. This campaign has been extremely successful, due also to the synodality process. And this project is centered on people who are homeless. There are over 160 places in the world where the Vincentian family is present. And we have seen many houses built. It is a very interesting project because it appeals to people's solidarity and because it introduces motivation processes, evangelization processes, always following the line of the anthropology of the poor and of the systemic change. It is a very interesting experience. Maybe at some point we could get someone to talk about it because it has been very effective. It's a very good practice and because it has been expanded all throughout the planet. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Gabrielle. And we will remember that there's always opportunities for conversation about housing. I think the issue of homelessness is one of the priorities for the community who is working at the United Nations. And in fact, several members of the religious community who are here have collaborated to form a working group on ending homelessness that they continue to lead. And that group has had a great amount of success in moving or promoting the conversation about homelessness in the context of the United Nations, because actually, as an institution, the United Nations really didn't have much documentation or even a firm definition of homelessness on which to operate. And so a huge effort has been made by this working group and by Vincentians and several other congregations, including Jean Quinn, who founded the Sophia Project that we heard about earlier, have all been instrumental in moving the conversation at the UN toward a firm description, at least, of homelessness and to make it a theme actually of one of the major UN commissions just a couple of years ago. So huge advancement in that conversation, and we're always looking for more contributors to the conversation. So we will need to remember the project that you're describing and perhaps learn more about it in future conversations. Franco, I believe I also saw your hand earlier. Are you still interested in commenting? Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Thérèse. Je voudrais d'abord dire merci.
I would like to say thank you. First of all, it is very interesting to listen to the experiences, particularly with regard to the youth suffering from addictions, and also the last experience of the homeless people.
Prendre aussi
topics. These are very good initiatives to discuss, to talk about, to learn. I think that the last experience showed something very important, and that is the lack of having a policy, a public policy, with regard to the most vulnerable people. And this is something, according to me, I haven't said anything in the last days, but I think the problem with access to water, to energy, if there's no public policy that puts in its center, in its essence, the human being, the man, the woman, the human being in its center, there, pardon, an approach that is really based on the rights of the humans, it is really working, and this is what a lot of people talked about. So we create the energy, but we can make it accessible. So we need to find answers. When we talk about the free market, for instance, we have to leave it to people and their social class and their ability, personal ability to have access or not. This is the problem. So I'm speaking spontaneously here. Be patient with me. In Latin America, in the 80s, we saw what the free market was and what the liberalization of the market, the energy market was, and how the policies, and it was catastrophic. Things started to change with regard to inclusion when we had a state that took seriously politics and the role of the state to take care of the most vulnerable, the poorest. And here I come to talk about the Congo, where I work. Indeed, if there is no policy that can offer the basis of the main policies for waste management, access to water, access to energy. So most of the people who are below poverty, so if we leave the free market accessible to only chosen categories, nothing will change. Nothing will change. So I want to highlight the role of the states in making infrastructures, means of transport, and accessible to everybody, and to take care of the most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you, Franco. And yes, I see the hand of Lucy as well. Please go ahead, Lucy.
Merci. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I just wanted to add to what the father said. He is right. I do believe that without a policy, nothing's going to work. can associate ourselves to this and that, but this won't work. Last year, we as counselors or congregations as RDC, we started an activity for waste management for the recycling of the plastic. And the Minister of Internal Affairs, so we visited these ministries, Internal Affairs, Energy, the mayor. And then when we saw that consecrated people walking around, they understand that there has been a positive response. The waste management is not well done, so we wanted to plead, we wanted to advocate in the name of the population. So we wrote and we asked the government to do something. So I was a member of this group, and then the government and the other part said yes. And for now, we don't know if they continued in this path, because we really asked for a better management, to add tanks in order to help people in their waste management. We tried as much as we can to ask for continuity. And I would like also to congratulate congregations in Argentina and the other countries for all the initiatives and the projects they are developing for the homeless. And I'd like to ask them, how do they start? Do they have taxes? Do they pay taxes? What do they need? What did they do so the government accepted? I really heard about a very important projects just like Ireland. So what do they do? What do they do? And what does the government accept? How they accept so they can realize what they realize. I'm really, really very happy to be part of this conference, and I really learned a lot of good things. Thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sister Lucy, and for being a participant throughout. And I wish that Sister Jean or Padre Carlos were here on the call so they could respond to your question now. However, I can definitely connect you with those two at least to deliver your questions about how to initiate a project in the area of housing and how to potentially collaborate with the government, perhaps get some support, structural support from the government, whether it's financial or some other kind of resources or allowances that help to support starting a new project like this. I would love to connect you with them afterwards so we can do that. But in the meantime, I also want to applaud your efforts with regard to waste management. I know it is not the most traditional ministry. It's not maybe the first thing that people associate with activities of religious congregations, but in the experience of the JCoR community, we recently, in the past several months, did some organizing in Zambia and Zimbabwe. So in your neighborhood of the world, at least. And I know that both of those communities were expressing very considerable concern with lack of waste management, which was really visible in every direction, especially in cities. A whole lot of waste from consumer products, mass-produced products, but no place to send it, no one to gather it. And so I want to include in this conversation, when we talk about waste management, that we always want to keep in mind also that to keep the emphasis, the strongest emphasis in the conversation on waste, about reducing the creation of waste in the first place. And I think, Father Franco, you were touching this matter a little bit in saying, we're looking at a whole economy, an issue of an entire system of production and consumption, and the way that we produce goods is the root of the problem that we see when we are looking at a mountain of waste and nowhere to put it, because ultimately, even if we remove that waste from sight, it still goes somewhere. It doesn't disappear. And so when we talk about waste management, let us always kind of keep that whole view, that yes, we want to be responsible in the waste that we cannot avoid creating. However, the most responsible action we can take is always on the prevention side, avoiding the creation of that waste that then needs to be managed. And so that's a piece of a project that is coming forward from the JCoR network in Zambia, is an effort to have a curriculum that would be included in all of the government schools that would inform young people about kind of an environmentally just culture, and environmentally responsible habits of consumption, so that we can kind of start to heal what's our environmental crisis, our cultural crisis, of the creation of waste and excess. So anyway, just to add one more element to our thinking about waste management. And I also I see the hand of Martha Blaua. Please go ahead.
Merci. J'espère bien que vous allez me recevoir.
Thank you. I hope you can receive me. Yes, we can hear you. Yes. Good. I am Sister Martha Abada. I'm a Dominican sister in the Ivory Coast. It is true that I learned about the forum a bit late and I only followed the last interventions, but I would like to thank you for this initiative. I worked on a topic about waste management in one of the countries in Africa, and I also touched the environmental questions, and I would like to say there is also the question of educating our populations that we need to take at heart. It is very true, our governments can be lacking in putting and implementing policies to manage things. But if the population is not instructed, educated with regard to certain topics, it won't change everything. It is not only about the governments taking initiatives. And this I say from personal experience, from what we try to do in our projects. The population needs to put things in place, not only the government, but if the population does not collaborate, it will be difficult. As you said, the environmental crisis is the result of our behaviors, our daily behaviors. So imagine that in our African cities nowadays, we are incapable of taking a bag to buy something. But can you imagine everybody in one society that every time they need to buy something, they would like to take bags, and then whenever we finish with them, we leave them in the environment like this? You're going to say the government? No, it comes from the population. We do not collaborate. I'm speaking with a lot of zeal, passion, because in the country I work with, in this city, it's full of waste, and it's coming from the population. People are not capable of preparing things inside their houses, but buying everything externally and leave it externally. We refuse to collaborate. And they would say, give us 1,000 francs per month, but then where to put the waste? We can't manage it. So we can put them in the front of the houses, in the neighborhoods, here and there, and it's this. And we cannot fight this if we are incapable of educating ourselves. And pardon me, but also our politicians and our government comes from these backgrounds. With this mentality, we cannot change. Thank you very much for this initiative. This is my first time participating in this event. I'm very pleased, and I hope that together we can find the means to educate our populations, and also because our politicians come from these backgrounds, to take the responsibility, to take engagements, to change our lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha, and we appreciate your zeal. It was a fabulous first participation. So thank you very much for bringing forth your experience and for helping us to see how much we really have in common, no matter where we are coming from with these challenges. And I also see the hand of Sister Ernestine. Please go ahead, sister.
Bonjour à tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to echo what the sister was saying with regard to this horrible situation in Africa. I find it very important for the government with regard to endurance. We cannot perseverance. We cannot just come up with a project, do it for a couple of months and leave it like this with no continuity. For example, we say everywhere in the media that starting now, we are not selling plastic bags. We have to use the shoppers from the house. But then in few months, we find everything in plastic everywhere. So it is also time for the government to take a measure, but to keep on working by it. So I truly believe that this effort needs to be made by both sides, populations and governments, and also populations who are poor. It is true, if we do not have good examples from the government who pushes and who perseveres to educate society. And I also believe that it is important to see that the education is necessary for all. It's not because we are poor that we are incapable of respecting and protecting common things, the environment. Just like the sister said, I see this in Madagascar, where a lot of poor people and marginalized people let things throw everywhere, don't take care. So that's why I'm saying the government should put in place a structure, a system to educate people, populations, and on the side of the population, it is very important to know this, to learn this also in the families, and to say how to say it, to have this civil education. It is very important in underdeveloped countries as our countries, because we believe that if we leave the poor to everything, this is bad, and this exists in very, very small things. And I'm going to give you an example, and I'm ask your pardon for stating this. But for instance, in a big meeting of the governmental entity, there was a huge meal organized, and at the end of the meal, I found plastic bottles everywhere. And I said to myself, but these are the government, the politicians. Probably my example is very mediocre, but I believe it's very important. So everything, I mean, how does it take? What does it take to put everything in one bag, you know, not leave it on the ground? Thank you, on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernestine. And the example is not mediocre. I think it's only too common. I have seen similar things even inside the United Nations. Fortunately, they are improving in that regard, but it's always kind of a glaring, I'll say, discord or incongruity when we meet to have conversations about the environment, and then we see unnecessary waste all around us in our behavior. We understand there is a disconnect between a theme of our conversation, a disconnect between rhetoric and practice or policy. So this is, I think, a theme in our challenges everywhere. And we've heard from several parts of the African continent, but I can certainly say from my experience in the United States that it's the same, that one needs to make an effort to consume even basic, fruits and vegetables that come from the ground without any packaging. You need to make an effort to avoid packaging for those items. The system kind of automatically includes a lot of waste that doesn't need to be there. And so we need to begin by educating ourselves about the need to avoid waste when we can, and how to manage it when we cannot avoid it. As well as, I think, people have mentioned there's a role for government, there's a role for the people, and we can't ignore that there's also a role for corporations, for business. Because of course, while the market responds to the demand of the people, so the reason that, products are sold with a lot of packaging is because people will buy it that way. However, if we were to change our behavior as consumers, or even if we were to create regulations that would limit the amount of waste, or at least provide, require businesses to provide financial resources to manage the waste that their products are creating, there could be a way of ensuring that some responsibility goes back to businesses that are certainly profiting from sale of products that involve a lot of waste, whether it's electronic waste or simple packaging, or whether they're polluting local water resources or soil, that there be some accountability also to businesses to pay for the management of whatever waste they are creating. I think that would result in us seeing them suddenly interested in finding ways to reduce the waste and the pollution that's involved with their products. So we need to kind of create an accountability for corporations, which can be created through policies and regulations. So this is another aspect of types of policies that we could be asking for and agitating for, in addition to educating ourselves and our communities about how to select products that involve less waste, either in production or packaging and delivery. So a multifaceted problem, to be sure, but not one that is totally beyond our control. We are, the cities are made of people, and the problems that have been created by people means that we also have the power to change our behaviors and our consumption. So We are not without power to change it. Is there anyone else that was interested in commenting or sharing a practice or observation? Okay, then I think we have reached our conclusion for today's session. So I will remind you all, we will not have a session tomorrow. Instead, we will resume with the SDG Lab on Monday. So we will meet on Monday, the 17th of July at the same time as today. And it's a very fitting date for the final conversation in this series because it is about goal number 17, which is partnerships and resources that support the entire sustainable development agenda. So we will gather on Monday for that conversation to hear more good practices, more observations, and more critiques of how well we are moving toward the achievement of this goal of partnerships to support sustainable development. So I thank you all once again very much for your presence, for your active attention and participation. Thank you for your patience with our audio problems today. And special thanks to our interpreters for surviving that audio. Must have been extra difficult for your brains, no matter how skilled you are. So thank you for your perseverance. And we look forward to being with you all again at the same time on Monday for a discussion of goal number 7. Goodbye for now.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. Au revoir. Ok.